Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is KarQ, and we have another week of hot takes for Overwatch 2. Let's get it started. This week I'm doing this off stream, so you don't get the live reaction from Twitch chat making fun or agreeing with your takes. But the first one of the week is hot take. Any hot take that actually has to do with skins, cosmetics, the price of them, exclusivity, etc. are really shit takes. They're completely optional, and ever since Overwatch became free to play, Blizzard has to make money somehow. Stop being spoiled and stop complaining. I do feel this take is kind of a medium warm, lukewarm take for me personally. I agree that Overwatch does need to make money. Like, it's a free to play game and skins are always optional. That being said, if there was no criticism or no pushback, then companies are kind of allowed to continue to price things wherever they want. There's no industry standard. They can continue to up and up and up it. And yes, of course, it's still optional, but it's no longer accessible. And a lot of people like to dress up and represent themselves with different skins and feel, and that's part of the game for them. It's not part of the game for you, Toasty6603, and myself. I only just buy what I personally like, and I'm not here to assign value to certain things. People buy what they want. I'm a person that doesn't buy skins unless, like, you know, I really like the hero. I'm not a collector. But that being said, me and you are not in the same bucket, but there are people who are, and it's important to consider how they feel. That being said, once again, some of the complaints are a little outrageous, but some of them do have some good merit to it. And what you and I see online are all the really terrible takes about cosmetics, and there's so many of them that are kind of like with no weighting to it and no substance, and then all the ones that are like really valid and good constructive feedback on how to price the cosmetics and all that stuff are lost with the sea of really bad takes. So it's hard to find them, to be honest with you, but there are some good ones, and I have read some valid feedback on that. It's a free to play game. Buy what you want, and if not, vote with your wallet. Don't play anymore, and don't support the game. I don't know if it's hot of a take, but Drunker Queen has the best set of skins so far. I don't pick Drunker Queen and be like, nah, I don't feel like using this skin when I put skins on random. Interesting take, Twiggy. Some of the default like blue rarity color skins, I don't think I ever click. That goes for like almost any hero. So there are, this is not just a Drunker Queen thing. I can't think of a single blue skin, like blue rarity skin on random that I would actually like. So throw that one out the window. That being said, most of Queen's epics and her mythic and her legendaries are pretty nice. So I agree with that part. If there's any blue rarity skin that you guys use, let me know in the comments, because I don't know. They're all just kind of base recolors, and I'm not feeling it. Right now, Juno, we have no choice for her and for Venture, so like we're left with no choice, but I can't say I like honestly love those color schemes. If anything, I just go with the default if they don't have skins. Hot take, but people keep the worst version of characters in mind when they hate them. For example, for Sombra, people combine the most powerful versions of her in their head and then complain about that instead of the weaker version we actually have right now. I actually think you're onto something. This is not a hot take. I actually genuinely agree with this. There's probably a psychology term for this. Is it cognitive bias? Hold on, let me look it up. Yeah, cognitive bias. Their experience of it was when the character was in a very annoying state, and they don't realize that Sombra, for example, has been nerfed 2 or 3 times since the beginning of the season, and her current iteration, to me, I've said this last week and the weeks before, ever since the mid-season patch, she's not like that oppressive. She can't really kill you as hard as she could pre-season 9 HP buffs. Like right after the rework, her virus did like 100 and was it 150? But everybody got a bigger HP pool, which means the relative damage virus did was less, and the virus damage has been nerfed since. So like, I think relatively speaking, she's weaker than the rework. It's just obviously over time, Sombra players got better. But on the same vein, you guys should know how to play against the Sombra a little bit more. It's one of the matchup things, one of the skill things in the game. It's all people always complain because it's frustrating to die and it's frustrating to lose to things that you feel like you have no control over, but you do have a little bit of control. Yes, maybe some heroes need a little bit more help than others, like Zenyatta against like, you know, isolated from a Sombra, but like, that's part of the game. You kind of have to like play around your team, play with them a little bit, try not to be alone, ping for some help. She's a high risk, high reward, and people argue she's only reward because she's invisible, but if you ever kick her out of stealth or she does not land the virus, which happens, there's no Sombra in the world in gold that lands 100% of the viruses. No way she can kill you as long as you just strafe a little bit and shoot back. If you shoot back and she throws a translocator to get away, you're able to catch her so much more often now ever since the rework. A lot of Sombras just get punished pretty hard if they're not careful, and I implore you to do your best against that matchup, and she won't be as bad, and she honestly isn't as bad right now. So hey, next hot take, as an open queue quick play player, it kind of sucks that all balancing is based solely on competitive role queue. I understand that, but it's not the main game anymore. Like, the main game is role queue and always has been. That's like balancing for arcade and whatnot, and if they have competitive mystery heroes if they ever bring that back. They're not like in a hardcore balance for that mode. That being said, I understand, and I've been asking Blizzard to at least help non-roll queue HP. Like if you guys haven't heard my complaints about this before, right? All tanks have minus 150 flat health in non-roll queue, like an arcade or whatever. So like a Zarya goes from 525 HP to like 375. Same with Doomfist. Relative percentage wise, that's so much more HP for heroes like Queen, Zarya, and Doom compared to like Roadhog or like Diva, who have a higher base HP and they also lose 150. But losing 150 for a hero that has high base HP like Ball and Roadhog is not the same as losing 150 HP for Doom, Zarya, and Queen, right? I have always said if you're going to like retroactively just add a global rule to nerf HP pools because having too many tanks sucks in open queue, like do it as a percentage, not a flat HP. Like who thought of this? Come on. Do you know what I'm trying to get at? Hot take, armor mechanics are actually not a problem. The quantity of armor is the issue. It being as strong as it is a good thing. Problems arise when the quantity of armor in the game increases and becomes overwhelming. For example, every tank post Season 9 except the 5 without armor. Had armor mechanic been applied before Season 9, the tanks would have gained significantly less armor overall and would not be an issue on people's minds. I sort of agree with this take, but I don't think it's like a all or nothing thing where the armor mechanic itself reducing 10, now 5 instances per damage is a problem. The quantity of armor is the issue. Quantity can be one of the solutions to alleviate some of the pain points. If you're going to buff the raw power of armor, this is one of the dials you can tune back. You can tune back the quantity of the armor, or you can tune back the amount of reduction per. And evidently you posted this take in August, and now I'm finally getting around to it. Instead of dialing back the quantity, like Diva does have a lot. She actually did get her quantity dialed back, but it is another knob. They actually dialed back the 10 flat reduction down to 7 instead. So you have two options. So armor in general is not a problem, and the quantity of armor is not necessarily a problem, but one of the things you can tune, and some are a bit more egregious than others, like Diva having too much proportionally. But I think the others are at a healthy amount. I think Winston has a small sliver, like 100 or something. Like that's fine. You know what I mean? Hot take, competitive and quick play should be balanced separately. The game is at its best when it's in its competitive form instead of shilling to casuals or metal ranks. I disagree. I think the best kind of balance is actually the best of both worlds, where you can bridge the gap between casuals and metal ranks while simultaneously keeping that hero in check with their ceiling. You can raise the floor and lower the ceiling slightly, but the higher ceiling is a good potential, maybe not that part, but you can raise the floor just a little bit, but not simplify them too much to the point where they're, too terrible to play at the high ranks, but still viable. And I think actually Overwatch has done a pretty good job at that. The only thing they can separately balance is probably console versus PC, which they have done. I think they give more aim assist and forgiveness for Ana shooting the teammate, and I think Juno. They haven't added it for Juno. That might be actually one of the reasons why Juno's kind of meh in console, so I've heard, for controller players, since it's very precision-based aiming. But Ana does have a little forgiveness there, if I'm not mistaken. Balance for both worlds, in my opinion. You can take opinions from all because it matters. And for quick play, for example, there is like a hidden MMR, and some quick play games are arguably much sweatier than some of the competitive ones, especially if that's like your main game mode, and you arguably might have a higher quick play MMR than ranked. You might be actually ranked like platinum as a DPS player, but you play so much quick play with your friends, you've actually inadvertently been like playing at a diamond level and playing against other diamond players in quick play pretty regularly. So having two balances like that would kind of be a nightmare, if you ask me. Hot take, they should remove the ability to swap heroes near or during overtime. The amount of times I've had matches were during overtime, and the entire enemy team swaps the characters that stall the point longer, like Ball, Tracer, Lucio, Mei, Venture, and it's annoying how it can turn a match 1 to 3 minutes longer than it should, all because of one swap into characters just to stall. I disagree. I think this stalling mechanic has been kind of around for so long that, you can make the argument that just because it's been in the game for so long doesn't mean it needs to be changed. I never really found stalling to be that bad in terms of swapping heroes. You have to assess whether that player can swap to that hero and do it proficiently enough. And it comes at a cost. You lose your ultimate charge. If I'm at 70% ult charge on a support, I will swap to KarQ sometimes. I lose the value. I have to decide. The skill right there is to decide whether it's worth it to stay as Ana. Maybe somebody else can stall and I can build Nano at 70%, or I swap to KarQ so I can instantly teleport back out to help with the fight with Suzu and whatnot. And that's an assessment the player has to make. It becomes more of an issue if you retain too much ult charge, but right now we're at that point where it's kind of isn't it 15% ult charge retention when you swap? It's low enough that there's very likely the staller If they all swap to stall, we'll never have an ultimate available unless it really goes on a little too long. And everybody who is attacking is snowballing and is hopefully building ultimates to hopefully finish and clean up the fight. And you get attacker spawn advantage, if I'm not mistaken, where like there's more people on the payload, which stalls the respawn rate for the defenders. Although now that with the group and wave respawn, I'm not sure if those two mechanics kind of intertwine. I'll actually double check on that and get back to you hopefully, and maybe ask another take in the future, and I'll probably have an answer for you in terms of that system. And if you don't know what that system is, in Overwatch 1 and early Overwatch 2, if you have more attackers than defenders on any payload, any attacking and defending kind of map, so payload, hybrid, etc., or like capture points, more attackers will, over like 15 seconds or beyond, adds extra time for the defenders to respawn. I made a video about this like 7 years ago called like real respawn mechanics in Overwatch, and I know for sure it was at the beginning of Overwatch 2, but wave respawn is kind of a new thing that kind of came out in the last few seasons, and I haven't really looked into whether this old system still applies, but remind me to get back to you on this. Somebody ask another take of these and we'll probably cover it. Hot take, Ana needs a huge buff for healing. Every other support has been getting small buffs. Meanwhile, Ana, who in my opinion has the biggest skill gap, I think you mean the skill ceiling, is starting to feel underwhelming. Even with consistent accuracy, there's no rewarding feeling on the healing end, unlike Juno, and she relies way too heavily on her grenade. She should either have flat out more healing or get a double jump for some survivability. I am so sorry, Taco Face 7047. That, my friend, is a skill issue, and I think Ana does not need a huge buff for healing. I think her output is pretty fair because you are supposed to balance it by doing DPS, and her value is also added with fantastic abilities like Sleep Dart and Anti-Grenade, which is something that isn't available for any other hero. And her healing is kind of balanced in a way where it's like, obviously if you hit more shots, you can be rewarded with more. And if you are landing everything, your healing output would be pretty decent. But that being said, it's accounting for an average player probably hitting like 50 to 70% of their shots. And it's a good balance where obviously if you have higher accuracy, you will heal more and add more value in that way. And it definitely does not need a buff for healing, nor a double jump by any stretch. Hot take, Reaper is the healthiest hero in the game. Bad Reapers are bad and great Reapers are unreal, but still very punishable with good coordination and proper counter picks. That's definitely a hot take. Definitely a stretch to say he's the healthiest hero in the game right now. He's actually serviceable right now because he's durable with 300 HP in a meta where it was very speedy and Juno-y, and like you can burst people down if they're not being careful, but Reaper has been in a pretty rough state before that for quite a while. And your statement on bad Reapers are bad and great Reapers are unreal can apply for so many heroes. Like bad Sombras are bad. They do nothing. They waste too much time invisible. They add no value, and then they don't confirm anything, and they just get caught and they can't translocate out, and they just get punished with good coordination and proper counter picks like you just wrote. So yeah, I'm not really feeling this take at all. I'm sorry, John Palkin. Hot take, Escort and Hybrid should result in an immediate draw if the score goes to 3-3. The fact that they can go to 6-6 and beyond is just criminal. If I wanted to play 30+ minute games, I'd play just a MOBA. Just balance the game modes in a draw at 3-3. Hot take, I think draws are actually, nah. I don't think so. I think overtime games are rarer than you think. You just happen to remember the ones that last very long. And no, it's very infrequent that your game is 30+ minutes. Like, I implore you to actually track how often a game truly goes to that point. Very rare. Very, very rare. And I think personally, overtime games are one of the best parts of Overwatch. It's super hype when you actually only have a minute and the enemy team has 3 minutes, but you somehow hold them for 3 minutes, and then you take your 1 minute and you convert a win. You get some really highs of Overwatch there, with of course some low lows if you're like on the other end where like, yeah, we had 4 minutes to attack and you couldn't get a thing, and then they end up stealing the game from you. Part of the game for me. You can't enjoy those highs without feeling some of those lows. Hot take, support is the hardest to rank up in metal ranks. Everyone says supports are boosted, etc., but I barely play tank or DPS, and I'm in plat in both, and I mainly play support and feel hard stuck gold after hundreds of matches. Heal botting doesn't work because even if I heal consistently, I am still at the mercy of others' performances. I feel like the only time I rank up consistently is if I queue Kiriko and do as much damage as a DPS while also keeping everyone alive. It feels like I have to do DPS's job for them while also doing mine if I want to consistently win matches in a way that is different from other role queues. I think the last like 3 weeks I've been iterating driving this point every time, but of course every person who watches these videos may not have heard it. There's always new people tuning in, so I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it every week because people have the similar takes until almost everybody in the community understands this. Some supports are certainly one of the hardest heroes to rank up, not even in metal ranks, but in general, because of their design. They are designed to play at the mercy of others' performances and they're very reactive. And the two that are the biggest culprits in the support category are Mercy and Lifeweaver. They are heroes that are completely dependent, not completely, but a large part of their playstyle is dependent on waiting for something to happen before you do something. You Tree of Life when things get a little dicey. You res someone after they've died. You damage boost and pray your DPS are like popping off, right? These are things that are like dependent on others. While where you said if you play Kiri and do damage and stuff like that, other supports like Illari, Kiri, Bap, Ana, Juno, they're very proactive heroes. They can play make, they can like start the fight. They don't have to wait for something to happen. It's like, let's just nano now and go. Let's just pop my Kiri ult, let's go. Let's just Illari ult initiate, let's go, right? These are things that can easily influence the game if you're like on top of it and you understand when it's appropriate to do so. So it's easier for your playstyle. It seems like you're, DPS and tank and you play better. That seems to be your playstyle. I implore you to try doing that. If you Q Kiri and start winning, play Kiri. It doesn't feel like the reactive supports where you're just heal botting are your playstyle. Play Kiri, play Illari, play Juno, play things that are a go, go, go. And it's less about doing as much damage and doing the DPS's job for them. You're adding value because it is part of playing support. You're a support, not a healer. If there's no one to heal, you're supposed to be helping the team by pressuring them, DPSing them. Some of them don't, Illari can do pretty similar damage, but some of them just chip away at them. As Juno, you kind of chip away, poke, poke, poke. Same with Baptiste, you chip away at them. You kind of loosen the jar for your DPSs to clean up the kills sometimes. That is part of your job as support. And, heal botting doesn't work all the time. It could be the right play in certain moments where you're like close to your ultimate. There's no angle to take as a Kiri. You want to heal bot a little bit, get your Kitsune, and then go. You know what I mean? Support is a pretty dynamic role. So to say it's the hardest to rank up isn't like actually that far-fetched, but it's easier if you understand the role a little bit more in that sense. Hot take, Brig would have been much easier to balance on release if Shield Bash and Whip Shot had the opposite effects. Whip Shot being a stun wouldn't have been as frustrating since the smaller hitbox and an actual skill shot, and Shield Bash as a knockback would have been a great tool against dive without being super oppressive like her original stun was. Plus, it makes more sense that just throwing your entire weight and hitting someone with a giant shield would push them away, and knocking someone over the head with the flail would actually daze them. I think Brig's actually in a pretty okay state right now, minus her bugs. One of the reasons why she's really good is because her armor is still bugged. As of recording this, it's been 6 weeks of season 12. She's tankier than she should be because her new layer of armor with Rally is reducing double the amount. That's one of the reasons why Ram and Brig, pretty solid. That's a side point. But honestly, with your outside of that, her balance is okay right now, but you are actually onto something the more I think about this. That's actually kind of cool to conceptualize. Like, you think you could probably tune the cooldown of the whip shot stun, because right now whip shots are a pretty short cooldown because it's just a knockback and it procs your Inspire passive, but a bash has slowly pushed them away a little bit. I don't think this is a hot take at all. I feel like this would be something you'd have to like play test a bit, but I don't hate it, to be honest with you. All right, and I think that will be all for this week. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week. Leave some more hot takes in the comments. Peace.